So, did you know that your employees could be leaking client secrets, giving away your intellectual property, or exposing you to lawsuits just by using AI at work without you knowing? So, I want to talk to you about this today because this is a really serious risk that all employers and business owners face right now. The reality is that whether they're telling you or not, your employees and your contractors are using AI. I promise. I guarantee you that they are using it. And if you don't know how they're using it and you don't have any guidelines on how they can use it for your business, they potentially could be opening you up to legal liability, to risks of lawsuits, and to loss of confidential and proprietary information, both yours and your clients, and losing your intellectual property rights potentially. Here's the problem. As I think everybody understands now, employees and contractors are experimenting all the time right now with AI tools. I mean, obviously, ChatGPT is popular, Perplexity, Midjourney. There are lots of very popular AI tools, and more people are using them for literally everything, and they're experimenting with them all the time. And they have figured out that using AI can greatly improve their workday. It can make things a lot easier, a lot more efficient. They can get their work done in less time. So it's kind of a no-brainer to jump in and start using it. But most people do not understand the risks of using AI. There's a lot of hype around it, but they don't understand what the downsides and the risks are. And unfortunately, often employees or contractors, whichever the type of worker that you work with, they may input your confidential or proprietary information or client or customer data into an AI prompt without realizing that it could be stored or even reused by that AI platform. And they may copy AI outputs, which is what the AI system gives you when you put in a prompt, without checking for errors, bias, plagiarism, or infringement. So here's the risk that you face if this is happening and you don't know about it in your business. You're risking losing your intellectual property. It also includes things like trade secrets. So proprietary information about your business. It could be anything from proprietary code, algorithms to customer client data, your financials, marketing plans, strategic plans, anything like that. Client data could end up in these third-party AI systems. And a lot of these systems will use the prompts and the chats that we're all creating when we use AI to further train their learning sets, their LLMs, which is where the models that keep all the data and process all the data in order to improve the outputs and to make the system smarter. And so those things could be actually used to train those systems. And what happens, unfortunately, is when your prompts or your employee or contractor prompts are inputted and then used to train the AI system, that information, that data, that intellectual property, that confidential information could be outputted to a third party as a response to somebody else's prompt. And we're seeing there are some major lawsuits right now, like Midjourney, for example, just got sued by Disney because people were asking for photos, which were the outputs of that system that resembled like Darth Vader, for example, or Yoda. And the system literally just spit out almost exact replicas of the Disney characters and even existing Disney images. And so the thing you need to understand about AI is that it's not creating anything new. AI is a predictive tool. It's like a very sophisticated autocomplete. And all it is doing is mixing together the data it has been trained on. It doesn't have any original thoughts or original ideas. Now, it may be that the mixture that it comes up with ends up being somewhat unique, but often it could be copying somebody else's proprietary work or intellectual property. And your employees or contractors may be getting outputs that are a violation of somebody else's rights. And you, as the employer or as the business owner that used that contractor, for example, could be held liable for that infringement because ultimately the buck stops with you. So that's a huge problem. Also, if your employees are inputting confidential or proprietary information from your business or your clients, that information can be exposed and lost. Some AI vendors reserve the rights to use your prompts to train their models, like the vendors do, not just the AI systems. And so we've got to worry about that. You got to worry about copyright infringement, like I just mentioned, and you want to make sure your employees are not passing off outputs as their original work. Because say you had a vendor like a graphic designer and you asked them to design a logo for you, and they didn't tell you that they were using AI, and they created a logo for you that you really liked, and so you decided to try to get a trademark in it. Well, the problem is that most AI outputs cannot be copyrighted because the Copyright Office in the US has determined for most instances, outputs are not copyrightable because they are not the result of human authorship. And so if you don't own the copyright in your logo, you can't get a trademark in your logo. You have to actually own the rights in the design in order to get a trademark. Well, if you try to get a trademark and you misrepresent to the trademark office that you actually own the rights in that design, and then later somebody wants to challenge you and try to cancel your trademark registration, they're going to have grounds to do it if they can prove that you just used an AI output as your logo. So that's just one example. You need the people who are working for you to be communicating with you and telling you when they're using AI. And then obviously, you face potential liability for inaccurate work. So if you have an employee who is doing some type of substantive work, research, or drafting of some kind for you, and they use AI, we all know now that AI can hallucinate, which means it can make things up. It can create facts that don't exist. Lawyers are finding that it's creating cases that don't exist or other technical details. There are a lot of instances of AI coming up with scientific research papers that don't actually exist. And so if your team, if your vendors or your employees are relying on AI outputs, but they're not verifying the accuracy of those outputs and they're passing it off as their work product, and then you're relying on that work product for something that you're delivering to a client, for example, then you could end up being liable for that inaccurate work. You could have problems with your clients, you could get sued, and you may have even bigger problems depending on what industry you're in. These are things you need to be on top of. So here's what I say to my clients. You need to make it acceptable for your employees and your contractors to use AI. Enable and empower them to use AI. And the way you do that is you want to encourage people to talk about it. You're not going to give judgment or be frustrated or angry to find out they're using AI. But the most important thing that you can do, well, there's two things. One is create a strong AI use policy for anybody who's working in your business. You're going to define what data can and cannot be shared in the AI prompts. You're going to define when AI can be used and when it can't be used. And you're going to have procedures for how the AI outputs need to be reviewed and verified before they can be relied on. And then also, the second most important thing you can do is train your team. You've got to educate your employees and contractors both on the risks they face from misusing AI, on what legal compliance looks like, and on best practices. And if you don't know how to train your team, you need to find someone who can do that, like me, that can come in and make sure your team understands how to responsibly and safely use AI on your behalf. And you need to also be mandating human oversight. There should always be a human reviewing AI generated content before it leaves your company, before it gets posted on the internet on behalf of your company. And then finally, you want to audit vendor terms. So you need to know when you're working with vendors or contractors what AI they're using. And you need to make sure that they agree to your AI policy when it comes to any work they're doing on your behalf. It's a very simple thing to do. It's incredibly important to get it done as soon as possible. And you need everyone who's working for you to sign off on it and agree to it. And if you have somebody on your team who's not willing to, that's not somebody that you want to be working with because they could create some serious liability and at the very least, some headaches for you in their use of AI. So if your employees are already using AI, you need a policy yesterday. So I've tried to make this as easy as possible for you. The first thing is I have a free AI use checklist for you to use in your business to help you start thinking about what needs to be done in order to protect your business from irresponsible and unsafe AI use by the people on your team. And better yet, I would love to just have a conversation with you and help you figure out exactly what you need to do for your specific business to protect the work that you're doing protect your proprietary and confidential information, your intellectual property, and to make sure you're mitigating the risk of AI use as you learn to really have an AI empowered business and have this new technology really help you accelerate your success. So reach out to me and let's make sure that your company is well protected and positioned to really take advantage of this new technology that can really accelerate the growth of your business and your revenue if done in the right way.